Welcome to the Centerpiece Podcast. I'm your host, Sally Gary, the founder and director of Centerpiece, a ministry that's been around for nearly 20 years. Centerpiece builds spiritual community for LGBTQ people and our families and our churches and allies. We provide a place to belong for so many people who have felt excluded from the body of Christ. We're doing different series of conversations on topics of interest to LGBTQ folk. In this particular series, we're talking about coming out with different guests sharing their stories of coming out. I hope you'll join us as we listen in to today's story. I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Matt Hilton. Matt and I go back several years. We have gone to church together, love the Lord together, serve in the ministry of Centerpiece and Just Dinner together, and I am really excited for you to hear some of his story today, particularly around his experience in coming out. We're continuing our series on coming out stories, and I know that Matt will have some tremendous wisdom around that topic. So, Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Sally. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here with us.
Of course.
This is really sweet to get to talk to you. I know that this is pretty much home for you here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about Matt's growing up years here in Dallas.
Okay. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me as a guest. I adore you and love the work that you do, and I'm excited to share part of my story with your viewers today. I did grow up in Garland, and so I'm a Texas boy through and through, and I'm the oldest of 4 kids. My mom and dad are still married to this day, so that would be 53 years that they've been married. And grew up in the Church of Christ there in Garland, and very conservative church. I was a good kid growing up. I didn't want to disappoint my parents.
Yeah.
And so I would, study and make A's, and graduated number 9 in my class of Garland High School, and went on to Baylor University. I was pursuing a pre-med undergrad degree to go to medical school. I was the first on either side of the family to go to a 4-year university and graduate. So that experience was all new. And it was a great experience. I didn't get the pre-med undergrad degree. Organic chemistry changed that course for me. 3.5 years.
For many of us.
3.5 years in. So I got an economics degree, and yeah. So that's a little bit about my younger years.
Yeah. When did you first realize that there was anything unique about your sexuality in particular? When did that happen for you?
Well, it's interesting because I think as a young kid, you don't really know what sexuality is. But looking back on it, I remember that I was attracted to men. And I didn't know that was wrong per se until I was told it was wrong at church. And so, once I found that out, and I was probably around, 10, 11 years old or so, I started then having conversations with God and asking him to take those feelings away. Why did he create me just to condemn me? I made deals with God. Hey, God, I won't do this anymore if you'll take this away.
Yeah.
And those deals never worked.
Yeah.
The feelings never went away.
Yeah.
But I still had that that feeling inside that I was created just to be condemned. So that was always a struggle between me and God.
Yeah. Were those messages that you received as a kid, that the feelings you were experiencing were wrong, were those messages overt? Was that something you heard directly from the pulpit, or did you learn that in another way?
That's a great question. I would say, just off the cuff, that was more of hearing it from the pulpit.
Okay.
And probably in Bible class too.
Okay.
But it wasn't anything that I went to scripture and found on my own or anything like that. It's just what was taught.
Yeah. What was that like for you, realizing that you had these feelings? Mm-hmm. What did you do with that?
Nothing. I did nothing. Well, I say nothing. I never acted on those feelings.
Sure.
I dated women in high school and college. I thought I was going to get, married and all, and I did. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was one of the things I've realized that I did is I really focused on things that I enjoyed doing and put myself 100% into those things.
Yeah.
To cover up.
Yeah.
And not address what was really going on inside.
Yeah.
I was a youth director of the church in Waco that I attended. I worked full time when I went to college.
Yeah.
And had a part-time job too for work study.
Yeah.
Because my family was lower middle income and didn't have the funds to send me to a private university.
Yeah.
So we had to find ways to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I stayed busy. I was president of my social fraternity that I had joined in my sophomore year. Mm-hmm. So my junior year, I was president of that fraternity and had a blast. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
I can certainly relate to so much of that. I knew that I had something different about me, and especially in regard to my attractions. But I too dated boys all through high school and college, and sincerely thought that was the path that I would follow too. So I get that. It wasn't something that I intentionally said, "Oh, I'm going to hide this from everyone." I sincerely didn't know what was happening there, because I'm a little bit older than you, but there wasn't a lot of conversation even when you were growing up. There certainly wasn't when I was growing up. There wasn't this conversation in the secular realm that gave us information to better understand ourselves. Right. So growing up in the church, as you and I both did, there was even less information, and certainly a taboo there.
Well, and the taboo is compounded is the word I want to use.
Yeah.
Because that was during the 80s.
Yes.
When the AIDS crisis was going on. And I was scared once I figured out, I may be gay. No, I'm not, because I'm going to get AIDS. Like that's just what I thought.
Yes.
Because I was uneducated.
So talk to us about after Baylor. What was life for Matt like after college?
So after college, I came back to Dallas, and I wanted to use my degree. So I became a stockbroker. Worked for my roommate's dad, who owned a brokerage firm here in Dallas. Actually continued to room with him for a while. He was my roommate, like I said, at Baylor. And yeah, that was what happened. I then started dating a girl that I had grown up with in the church. All of our families had grown up together.
Sure.
Grandparents were there, aunts and uncles, cousins, all the things, right? So I don't want to say that we were the ones that everybody wanted to get married, but we were the ones that everybody wanted to get married, right? So
sure.
So Amy and I, did our thing. We got married.
Yeah.
And Sally, I will tell you, there were times while we were dating and right before I got married, like the day of our wedding, I had to go to the doctor.
Oh, goodness.
I made myself sick and he had to give me a steroid shot.
Oh, man.
And so that was all going on inside.
Sure.
And nobody knew, of course, what was going on.
Yeah.
But I had the thought, well, maybe this will make the feelings go away.
Of course.
Let's go that next step that I am supposed to do and get married.
Yeah. I remember literally being told that, not for me personally, but I had friends who were gay who had been told that if they just went ahead and got married, if they found someone that they were friends with, you just go ahead and enter into that, and that will fix all of that, we were told. And so that was the cure.
And what's interesting is I wasn't told that. It's just what I thought needed to happen.
It was the water that we were swimming in that perpetuated that myth that we now know was a lie. And yet I believe that people only knew what they knew, and they were not intending to harm, but there was not a lot of information and evidence behind what they told us, and it did lead to a lot of harm. So what was life like for Matt as you tried to walk this out faithfully?
It was a daily struggle. Like I say, the prayers at night were to God, pleading and questioning and unsure.
Yeah.
And so, daily life was just living day by day.
Yeah.
Not and suppressing all of that, right? I mean, that's what it was. I was, like I said, I dumped myself into my work.
Yeah.
Because soon after becoming a stockbroker, I figured out very quickly that wasn't what I needed to do. So I became an entrepreneur. So I opened a private investigation firm and started following around the deadbeat parents and the people who were cheating on their spouses. And so, it was that was a time in my life where when you start a business or you start a nonprofit or whatever you do, you give yourself 100% to that because that is your income. That's how you make a living, right? And that's how you provide for your family. And so that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I did.
I certainly can relate to that. I look back now and realize that probably a combination. I don't know if this would be true for you, but a combination of a very high energy level and a personality that was driven and wanted to succeed, wanted to be the best at whatever you do. And so I threw myself into my work. But I look back on that now and I realize also that staying busy was a way that I compensated for the intense loneliness that I felt as a single woman, not knowing where I fit in the church, especially, trying to find my way, my place. I was like you. I begged God to take those feelings away. So I get all of that. And certainly being married as you were and with a family, you're justified even more in throwing yourself into that and providing for them, which I know you've done well with that. Tell us more about what it means to you to be a dad.
You're going to make me cry. Being a dad is the most wonderful thing in the world. Yeah, I knew growing up that, I'm the oldest of four.
Yeah.
And my dad had many brothers and sisters, and my mom was the oldest of four, and just come from a long line of people who are families that had a lot of kids, right? My mom babysat kids in our home growing up, so I was surrounded by kids.
Yeah.
Loved help taking care of the babies and all. So I knew that I wanted to be a dad, and the only way to be a dad is to get married, right? According to our society
there might
norms
be other ways,
and other ways. Yeah.
For you and me, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so, we got married and we started having kids a couple years later. I'm now the proud dad of 4 kids.
Yes.
My youngest is about to graduate high school.
Oh, that's hard to believe.
So I'm totally excited about that.
Yeah.
And, the oldest one is married and talking about, starting a family soon of her own, which is exciting too.
Oh, no. Grandpa Matt.
No, Grandpa. No, I haven't figured out what I want to be called yet, but not Grandpa.
Pappy.
Maybe, no.
Pappy Hilton.
So, it's exciting, and I love my kids. And at this stage in my life, me and my kids are good.
Yeah.
And they love me and accept me, and same with me with them.
Yeah.
So
they
know I'm always here for them.
Take me back to the moment that you realized that you needed to be more open about your full self. What led you there, and what was that moment like?
My ex-wife and I were not in the best place in our marriage. And, financial, hardships, and me being a serial entrepreneur, it's great when it's great, but when the market changes, because I'm a realtor now, so when the market changes,
yes,
you've got to adjust. And when you become accustomed to a certain lifestyle, sometimes that's hard to adjust for others, for some, and not for others, and vice versa. So there were just some difficulties that we were going through. And we never fought or argued in front of the kids, but it was one of those things where we eventually became roommates, living together, cohabitating.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't happy with that. And there was an incident where I was accused of having an affair with another woman.
Wow.
And so when that happened, I was like, no, that's not going on. And so I was like, let's go to therapy. Let's go talk about it and, see what else is going on.
Sure.
And so it was around all that, Sally, where, it was just like, okay, what am I doing? More information was coming out. I was listening and being introduced to all sorts of different things in society. And, I saw, that there were gay couples that were getting married and things were happening and they were having families and I was like, this is interesting. Yeah.
That must have been a really difficult time, though, too, to realize that there was more. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to realize that the status quo is not sustainable. And what that must have been like with a wife and children to consider.
Because Sally, that's spot on what was going on in my mind. Because if we were to get a divorce, I didn't want it to take place till after the kids were all graduated, till they were out of the house. I didn't want to put them through that. And, but it got to a point where I had to look out for myself. I had to take care of my mental state and before I could take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
It's that whole thing of the airplane, right? Put the oxygen mask on you before you put it on your kid.
Exactly.
So I had to take care of myself. I sought out a therapist who helped me realize that I needed to end that relationship and end it by letting her know the reason. Because the other alternative was to end the relationship and just say it's for irreconcilable differences.
Yeah.
And just bypass that whole uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
Until 2 or 3 years later, whatever time frame that she finds out that I'm dating a guy. Like, I didn't want to relive anything. I wanted just to put it all out there and say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I know that apology isn't enough, but that's all I had to offer.
So what was that next step like for you? And what was it your wife that you came out to first?
No, it was not.
Okay.
I appreciate the question. I want to answer that, but can we go back for just a minute to something you
sure.
said? It was a phrase that you used as far as, did you come out to her first? I believe words have meanings.
Sure.
And I like to say that I let her in.
Ah, I like that.
I let her in to see a part of me that she wouldn't have seen if I didn't allow her to see that.
Yes.
Right? Coming out makes it feel like that it's something that is incumbent upon me to tell somebody else.
Yes.
And it's frankly none of their business unless I want it to be.
Yes.
So that's why I like to use the phrase, I let her in or them in. Yeah.
I really like the way you put that, Matt. I had never thought of that before, but those words are powerful. And the desire to let someone in, that's powerful.
And it's a choice. You retain your power.
Yes.
When you do that, right?
Yes.
Because you don't have to tell everybody
exactly
your business.
Exactly.
You only let people in that you want, because that is something that's very personal.
Exactly.
So I only let people in who I want to let in.
So we're sharing let people in stories today.
There we go.
Yeah. And that is what ultimately connects us more with each other on a deeper level, is when we can share those most intimate details about ourselves.
Right.
But that doesn't have to be with everybody.
No.
Yeah. So tell us about what that was like for you in that moment of letting Amy in.
Oh, it was one of the most difficult moments of my life. And on the other hand, it was one of the most freeing moments of my life.
Yeah.
But you asked, was she the first that I told? And she was not.
Okay.
So I had confided in my youngest brother, who lived in New York City at the time. I flew up there and I was like, let's go to dinner. He's like, this is strange. You're just flying up here to go to dinner? So over dinner at an Italian restaurant there in New York City, I told him. And at that point, he's a strategist by nature. So he was like, okay, we need to figure out who you're going to tell next, how we're going to tell mom and dad, all the things. So, so I came back and I told my other brother and sister. And then Amy, my ex, was supposed to take her entrance exam into grad school on April 30th of 2016. And I did not want to tell her any of this or anybody else what was going on until after she took that exam.
Yeah.
I wanted to be considerate,
of course,
and respectful of all the work that she had put in.
Yeah.
And so I waited till May 1st, that Sunday after. And I had set up a time for my sister to come get the kids, which wasn't out of the ordinary. And Amy and I were going to have a budget meeting. And we sat down at the table. She was on my right-hand side, and we started, looking at stuff. And I was like, we need to talk about something. And so I told her, don't remember exactly the words I used.
Yeah.
But I do remember her turning to me with tears in her eyes and saying, "I'm so sorry you had to live with that."
Wow.
And it wasn't a response that I expected. We hugged for quite a while, and tears were flowing.
Sweet.
And once that conversation was had, I then went out to my mom and dad's, where my brother and sister, who were here locally,
Wow.
Went with me, and my brother, who was in New York, was on the phone.
How sweet.
So we went out there, messaged mom and dad on the way. They didn't know we were coming, but I said, "Hey, we're on our way." Walked in. That conversation lasted about 20 minutes. I remember my dad saying, "Son, I don't know why you felt you couldn't tell us when you were younger." And I said, "Well, based upon the way I was raised, I felt like I was either going to be sent off somewhere or to, make the gay go away.
Yeah.
Or there was going to be a punishment that I didn't want to endure."
Yeah.
I was scared.
Of course.
I was scared. Dad was really the only one who asked the questions, made the comments. Mom sat over in the corner and quietly cried. And that's the way Mom typically handled intense situations.
Yeah.
At the end of it, Sally, my dad said, "Well, I love you and you'll always be my son."
Good.
And I went over to my mom, and she said the same thing after I told her I loved her. And I left that meeting with my parents. And after the conversation with my wife at the time, feeling good. It went much better than I had expected. Until later that week, Amy asked me not to come back home.
Oh, my.
That next Sunday was Mother's Day. And I had texted and called my mom, about, "Hey, happy Mother's Day." Didn't get a return text or call. And I kind of suspected that, okay, this is what I expected was going to happen.
Yeah.
Although a week earlier I was on cloud 9 because it didn't appear that it was going to happen the way I expected.
Yeah.
And then May 25th is my birthday. And Mom, for years, had always called all of us kids at the time that we were born on the day of our birthday.
Yeah.
Or the day of our birth. And on May 25th of 2016, she didn't call. And that's when I knew that the relationship with me and my mom was going to be strained.
Yeah.
It was not going to be the way it was. And it's still not the way it was.
I'm so sorry, Matt.
So, I appreciate that. One thing that has helped me, Sally, and this just happened recently. I heard on TikTok Mel Robbins on the podcast. And she has a new book called The Let Them Theory.
Okay.
And the premise is you can't control what other people think, say, or do.
Right.
So your expectations that you put on someone else, they're probably not realistic.
Yeah.
So let them. Let them think the way they're going to think. Let them say what they're going to say. Let them do what they're going to do. Because they're showing you who they really are. And then you don't just stop there. Then there's the let me. Let me now determine how I'm going to respond.
Yes.
You retain your power when you are the one who's now in control of how you're going to respond, if you're going to respond.
Yeah, we can only control ourselves. We can only control our response.
That's right.
And to respond as God calls us to continue to love.
That's right. And Sally, the relationship with my kids was strained too afterwards.
Tell us about that.
Well, my ex insisted that I tell all 4 kids at the same time with her present.
Okay.
The real reason why we were divorcing.
Okay.
I didn't want that to happen because at the time I had a 15, a 13, an 11, and a 8-year-old.
Oh, my.
So a 15-year-old female versus a 8-year-old female, there's a difference.
Definitely.
In conversations.
Yes.
And it pretty much happened the way I envisioned it would happen. We were all sitting there and I told them, and my oldest one started crying. Then the second oldest one started crying. Then my son, it just trickled all the way down until everything was just a mess.
Yeah.
And there were times that my kids were not very nice. I will always love my kids.
Of course you will.
But there are times that you don't like them.
Yeah.
There's a difference. And I feel like that's what was happening vice versa.
Yeah.
I believe my kids loved me.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't like me at that time.
Sure.
Right.
And how difficult that must have been for them. I mean, they're children.
Yeah. They're children.
Yeah.
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 So I gave them grace.
Of course.
I was consistent. I continued to love them. It helped me become a better dad because I can now tell my kids, there's nothing you can say or do that would keep you from my table or keep you from walking through my front door at any time of your life.
That's right.
And I didn't have that as a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that. And that's one of the reasons I didn't come out any earlier before I got married or while I was living at home with mom and dad, because I didn't feel like I would be welcome through that door anymore.
Yeah. I have had the pleasure of watching you love your children no matter what. And I can attest to the fact that you have loved them through some very, very difficult times of not being loved well yourself. And that has always impacted me as a daughter. As a daughter of a father who didn't always know how to love me well, watching you love your children well, regardless, has meant the world to me.
Oh, thank you.
So, thank you.
And I will tell you a shift. I know you.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Just want to let you know that there was I believe 5 years into it or so, one night around 10:30 at night, I got a call from my oldest daughter. And that was kind of out of the ordinary. So I figured something must be up. And I was hoping it wasn't bad news, right? And she said, Dad, are you awake? Is it a good time to talk? I was like, well, sure. And she said, have you seen the movie Love, Simon? And I said, yeah. And she said, I'm here with my roommates watching it. And she said, I'm sorry that I treated you the way I did. And so from that point, I don't want to say that movie gets all the credit, but at that point, the next Thanksgiving which was just a few months later, we had a very open conversation with all the kids, and the guy I was dating at the time was there. And from that point forward, like, it has just been a really great time of being a dad to my 4 children. Mm-hmm. It's always been a great time, but knowing that they know who I am.
Yes.
And that I'm not wearing a mask.
Yes.
And they continue to love me, that is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe it's powerful when you let other people in, just like it's powerful when you let them in about anything in your life. It doesn't just have to be about sexuality, right? It could be about sexual trauma. It could be about a mental illness. It could be about an eating disorder. It could be about fill in the blank, right? I mean, it could be about physical abuse that you're going through in a relationship.
Sure.
You don't want to let people in because of why? You're afraid of the shame you will feel, right? Of the judgment that will be passed on you, especially those that have grown up in a religious, a conservative religious background, right? So my encouragement to people is be brave. You will find your tribe. You will find your chosen family. Yeah. You will not be alone. Have people around you who support and love you, right? Yeah. But take the mask off. Yeah. This life is way too short to continue to live behind a mask and worried about, is somebody going to notice something, or somebody going to, hear something that I say, or whatever it may be. Why? I just want to encourage people to I will be there. I will be there to hold your hand and be a part of your tribe.
Exactly.
Because I know how powerful it is to be the human that God created.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. And the ways that you do give back. I mean, I'm thinking of how you are our coordinator for Just Dinner, that meets monthly, and we've done that since 2018, and every month without fail on the first Tuesday here in Dallas, you host a dinner at your home. That's a really sweet thing. Every Thanksgiving, there's a Friendsgiving, and I have literally sent people your way that
I had a couple people this year.
Strangers that show up at your door and come in and sit around your table.
Because I remember, Sally, when I was alone at the holidays, and quite frankly, that sucked.
Exactly.
And I don't want anybody to ever feel like they don't have a place to go for the Thanksgiving meal. So my home is always open at Thanksgiving for anybody who finds themselves alone, whether it's because family doesn't want them there, or they may be just new to the Dallas area, or they may be going through a divorce, whatever it may be. Yeah. There's always a place at my table.
Yeah. Matt, how has your faith helped you through all of this?
That's a great question. My relationship with God has become stronger because I'm not fighting with him anymore, right? I'm loving him even at a deeper level because I am happy and joyful with the person that he created.
Yes.
And I don't have to be shameful of anything anymore.
Yes.
So my faith has helped a lot. I will tell you that when I did go through the divorce and met with the elders of the church that I was attending when I was a deacon, and they asked me to step down, and it would probably be best that I not come back.
Wow.
I had a few months, didn't take long. I had a good foundation, but there were a few months where I was just like, I'm not going to church again. I'm not doing this again. That was very hurtful.
Sure.
It wasn't surprising, but it was hurtful when it happened.
Yes.
And I felt alone. Like that was part of my tribe. Those were my people.
Yes.
And so after a few months, I did start going around to different types of religions, right? So,
Sure.
I visited a Methodist. I visited another church that was a LGBT focused church. And something, although those experiences were great, the people were wonderful, I just didn't feel the connection.
Yeah.
One day, I'm going to tell this story, how I met you. One day I was at work and I had an employee who she had posted that she was going to the church that you attended, Highland Oaks. And she said, you know what? You should come. You should come and you should meet my friend. And I was like, okay, and your friend is? And it was Sally. So I went and met you.
I remember.
And I remember the conversation we had in your office that you had there at the time. And it was just very, very special. That body has embraced me and loved me.
Yes.
I have sang on the praise team. I have led communion,
Yes.
read scripture. And Sally, you don't know this, but I was recently asked if I would consider to be an elder.
Oh, my goodness, Matt. Oh, my goodness. That's a huge step.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So a member came up to me and said, I would love to be shepherded by you.
Oh, wow. That means the world to me.
Yeah. So
That's
we're going through that
wonderful to
process
hear.
right now. So it's an interesting time.
Yes.
And so I love my church family. It's one that I have chosen. I love my friends. I love the people that I have chosen in my life. And it's a wonderful time.
Oh, that's great. That does my heart good. Well, I'm glad you shared all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember very well the day that you came out to me. And
I let you in.
Yes, you let me in, and I have been forever changed by your friendship and by your letting me in that moment. I'm wondering as we close our time together if there might be some advice that you could give to our listeners, maybe somebody who is thinking of coming out. You and I both understand how absolutely terrifying that can be. I'd like to think that it was more terrifying for us, it being a different time, and yet I think in some ways we may be going back to those fearful times, and people may be really anxious about letting someone in this way. What advice would you give to them, and what advice would you give to the people on the listening end as to how to respond?
My advice is, one, be true to yourself. And whatever that may look like, find that one person. I found my youngest brother. Find one person that you can go and talk to, that you know that they will love you unconditionally. And And you may be wrong. I want to put that qualifier out there, right? Just be prepared that one person may have a reaction that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Let them have that reaction of whatever it may be. And I believe that is my advice for anybody that you let in. Just let them process, let them react the way they're going to react. Some people will come back around and be like, my initial reaction was out of shock, out of disbelief, whatever it may be, right?
Sure.
But some will come around and be like, I still love you, and I still want to be a part of your life.
Yeah.
And the people who don't want to be a part of your life, let them. It's going to be hard, especially if they're family, blood family. But you can choose your family too. And so my advice there is go find people who you have connections with. If you want to make friends, go get involved with a community of people who have common interests with you. I was recently appointed as an ambassador for the LGBTQ Outdoors group.
Oh, wow.
So here in North Texas. So I'm going to be organizing outdoor activities for our community.
That's wonderful, Matt.
And I would encourage anybody here in the North Texas area, if you like outdoor activities, come join us.
You'll have to come back on and tell us more about that.
I would love to.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. And if you are spiritual, go find some people who can walk beside you.
Yes.
In that realm as well.
Yes.
And as far as people who are receiving, be patient, be loving, be open-minded, be respectful, be kind, because this person who is letting you in something that is very personal and sacred to them,
yes,
is putting a lot of faith and trust in your response.
Yes.
And just recognize that your response could have a lasting impact.
That's beautiful. Matt, it is a joy to be with you.
Yes.
I just absolutely love you to pieces.
Love you too.
And I love watching you thrive. It has been a joy to be connected to you all these years, and I look forward to more.
Oh, there will be more.
Come back.
I will.
Come back.
I will. Thank you.
Well, friends, I'm glad you joined us for today's conversation with Matt. I know I enjoyed talking to my old friend, and I hope you enjoyed listening in. I hope you'll join us next time for more conversation with Centerpiece. If you'd like to learn more about Centerpiece, go to our website at Centerpiece. That's PEACE.net. We'll see you next time.